Hello, and welcome. Happy Friday. This is Art and Tech Friday with me, Rachel Wilkins, and Nick Kalyani on this side.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome. Nick, since we are broadcasting live in a couple of different places right now, I thought it would be a good idea to just do informal introductions. So do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nick Kalyani. I am the founder of NftyDreams DAO and also Hyperverse DAO. I live in sunny Silicon Valley, and I'm both a geek and an art lover. And we
Perfect.
can combine the two, all right? Yeah, so
And you're going to see why that's important, folks. If you don't already know Nick, you're going to see why those two parts of his personality are super important. So my name is Rachel Wilkins. I am the founder of Conception Arts. I'm also a marketing strategist, and I am the marketing lead for NftyDreams. So I'm delighted to be here having these regular conversations with Nick and talking about all things art and tech. We've bumped this session up to 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, so that you're not getting too much information as you're closing out your Friday. But we're here to bring some value, really just kind of chop up some of the topics that we're hearing you in the community talk about. So I guess kind of jumping right in, one of the things that comes up a lot, especially to folks who are relatively new to Web3, is what the heck is the metaverse? So I want to just kind of push you, Nick, for your definition of what the metaverse is, at least right now.
yeah, it's an ever-changing kind of thing, and I think right now, especially with all the big players jumping into this space, the metaverse is virtual worlds. It is a place where we, as physical human beings, can have a virtual manifestation of ourselves as avatars and almost recreate the world, but more perfectly. The more in line with our likes, our loves, our thoughts, our emotions, and also kind of more free from all the problems of reality. So that's what essentially the metaverse would be in my definition.
So Randy Zuckerberg, of course, sister to Mark Zuckerberg, and a big proponent and advocate for Web3, said this week that the metaverse is in chaos because right now builders and developers are essentially building in their own walled gardens. They're creating these kind of microverses, if you will. She suggested that we won't have a smooth and complete decentralization of Web3 until folks can have ownership of the services and data and take them from place to place. So what do you think are the barriers and the blocks that are preventing us from being at that point right now?
Yeah, I think a big barrier is pervasive sort of adoption of Web3. Like you and I in Web3, so we understand what it's all about. We understand that there is actually a distinction between sort of what the larger market thinks about Web3. They kind of conflated with just web cryptocurrencies. Like in for most of the world, when you say Web3 or crypto, they are like, oh, Bitcoin, or hacks or money laundering, or that narrative is still there, right? But this narrative that Web3 is about decentralization and about owning your own data, etc., is still not mainstream. And so until that happens, regardless of whether it's metaverse or anything else, we are going to be stuck with a world that has the same problems rooted in the same sort of beliefs that are there in Web 2 right now. So what's the solution? I would imagine the first step is that the user experience of Web 3 needs to really, really improve to the point where people don't even realize that they are using a Web3 application. Right now, the friction is so high, Rachel. It's just incredible.
Yeah, Keith Grossman actually talked about that. I went to the Christie's event in New York City, and he said, there's so much friction at this point right now. Like if he was to say to I think he said his mother, go set up a Twitter account, she could do that in 2 steps. Where if he said go buy an NFT, it's a much heavier lift to get to that process. But there is a reason why there are so many barriers to actually getting to that point, and one of them is, of course, security. Now, we're not going to deep dive into security today because we did do that a couple of weeks back on Instagram. But given that this decentralized space essentially falls on our own shoulders to protect ourselves, how can we have both? How can we have security but also ease of use? Like, what are some of the technical solutions that you see coming in that area?
Yeah, that's a very heavy lift. And I would just argue a little bit that maybe it's not necessarily all about security. It's also about how we got here. I just want to take that brief detour before I answer your question. So, the way we got here is that these network protocols, the blockchains, the engineers who worked on them, they worked on the testing tools for them, the development tools for them. And you know what happened? Those tools, they surfaced and they became the tools you and I have to use. And now what people are doing are like, oh, we got to undo all this stuff that is all developery, if that's a word, and make it more usery, like more human centric. So that's why like things like MetaMask, etc. At least now they're improving a little bit. But that's why, like, when there's an error, they show you this ginormous error message with all kinds of gobbledygook, which to any human, even a developer, makes no sense at all. But that shouldn't have surfaced, right? But that has surfaced, and now people are realizing and recognizing that this needs a different approach, a gentler, kinder approach, and in my opinion, a hybrid approach. What I mean is, why expect people to cross this chasm when we can just make it like it's a bridge, like go gently, it's a bridge. And so one of the things I see is companies doing more and more wallets that are using sort of email as a way to secure your identity. So Dapper Wallet, for example, by Dapper Labs, it uses a Google login, and email. So you're going to see some of that because it is possible. There is a world where you still have decentralization, but it doesn't require the keys you hold, etc., to also be decentralized. We are humans. We are going to, at some point or the other, end up with those keys saved in a centralized place, whether it's your bank locker, if you have a paper wallet, for example, as they call it, or you have it stored securely on your computer. But there is some element of centralization, and maybe what we did was we made the leap too far initially. Maybe we got to make some gentle strides instead. And so I think those kind of wallets that are like taking that hybrid approach, that are maybe using email or your mobile number. Mobile numbers are also susceptible to sim jacking, etc. But the alternative is nothing, is do nothing. But so steps are being made, and I think that progress is good. So that's the word about sort of security. And I talked for so long, I forgot your question.
I forgot it too. It's Friday, so that's okay. Yeah. One of the things that I've heard kind of as a way to describe what the metaverse is right now, and this is thinking from a more Web 2.5, 2.75 as opposed to Web 3, is that the metaverse is essentially just an extension of people's businesses using gamification to engage, right? So like, for example, if Nike creates its own metaverse and it's an extension of their website, people will be able to go in, move about the store as an avatar, speak to a representative, all things that we can technically do in Web 2, but we're doing it in this unique experience. What is your kind of take on that, and how do you think that will evolve over time?
Yeah, so right now it's eye candy, right? It's like this browser experience where you're walking your avatar around, etc. And I can see why people roll their eyes and say, well, what's different? I can just do it a little more efficiently in my web browser. But I think what we have to look at is this is nascent. Like, it's the first step. When we get to the point where we have, for example, virtual reality glasses that don't make us dizzy or feel like throwing up, where we can actually be immersed, now that's a definite unlock, where it doesn't matter if you are in San Francisco or Sao Paulo or Bombay or wherever, and you can walk into that same store and interact with each other without using a medium like text or speech, which is separate, but your whole entire, all the sense, well, all the senses virtually to the extent you can, that's alluring. That's an interesting experience. We're not there yet. I think we are 5, maybe 8 years potentially away from that. I think that finish line keeps extending, because it's almost like it's like an onion. You peel a layer, you solve that problem, and you're like, oh no, there's a bigger problem here, and people keep having to deal with that. But I still think it's a worthy goal, because if we can get to that point where the glasses are super cheap, like kind of like where we got to the point where, at least not even smartphones these days, they are affordable, not the fancy ones, but a basic smartphone is affordable. If we can get to that point where VR glasses, internet bandwidth, etc., is available, where anyone anywhere can hop in, that's Web3's vision of equality, like playing out, and then comes the unlock of eliminating, at least in the metaverse, the barriers of race, different abilities, language, etc., because we can virtualize speech in real-time translation, everything that is potentially problematic in the real world. We could put it in the metaverse and allow humans freedom to be themselves and explore the world. So yeah, that's kind of the dream of the metaverse.
It is, and I want to make there's a lot of, you can find negativity and negative talk about Web3 everywhere. So we want to kind of make it a mission to bring the good part of Web3, what is exciting about Web3, to these conversations. But as always, folks, you do your own research, whenever there's money involved. Nick, are you building in the metaverse? Are you buying land anywhere?
I bought some land in like Decentraland, etc. But I'll be honest with you, I have so much on my plate right now in the Web3 space that I haven't ventured a lot into the metaverse. I also, I like to sort of innovate technically first and then experientially. So I would rather, you'd find me rather cracking open a dev kit and like creating some kind of metaverse experience first. But yeah, not yet full scale, no.
I will say this has been one of the hardest areas of Web3 for me to explain to quote unquote normies.
Yeah.
Let me know in the comments if you've had any experience of trying to explain virtual land and virtual real estate to a loved one who's not here yet. My father-in-law, who is wonderful, very intelligent, 82-year-old, former judge, attorney, so very smart man. I tried to explain that people were spending money on land that doesn't exist, fictitious land, and building fictitious property, and people were willing to pay good money for that. That's a lift.
Yeah, it is indeed a lift, but we've done that before, right? Like, for example, we've had Web2. Let's take something very simple like domain names. There was a scarcity around it, and so people were willing to pay a premium. So what we don't know yet is, in the metaverse, what is going to be scarce and what isn't. And I feel like some of the early sort of projects, they've started to establish themselves as, okay, this is rare because it's early and it's already scarce. So but anyone can do that, right? Anyone can come and create that. But how is that any different from, let's take our NFTs, for example? Anyone can go and create a Bored Apes project. Is that valuable? Well, no, because that's the essence of it, right? It's not only about the tech or the space. It's all the other stuff which you know very well about. It's the branding and what it represents. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things when I'm kind of trying to explain just fundamental basics about NFTs, and we get that response of, well, it's just a JPEG, or I could just right click save, is that explanation of like, well, if you went to the Louvre and you snapped a picture of the Mona Lisa and you went to Staples and you printed that out and put it on your wall, you don't own the Mona Lisa. You can't then take that print and sell it on eBay and get $200 million like you would for the Mona Lisa. that's kind of the black and white way of explaining it to somebody. But it is essentially an NFT is an asset as well as, you know, the community and just ability to be a part of something larger. It is just an asset as well.
Yeah, and it's what it represents, right? So this is analogous to your I don't know if you've got a credit card that unlocks the ability for you to immediately get an upgrade every time you hop on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
It's an experience. The card itself is physically just plastic, maybe metal, but that's not the point of it. It's what it represents and what it can do for you, you know. And that's, I think, the big unlock. And I think that is true of virtual lands today also, because, for example, if your virtual land is connected to an asset that has already proven itself to be valuable in NFT space, then by definition, by extension rather, that virtual land is valuable because no one else can get it. So if you have a Base and a Bored Ape, and you know, maybe there is already this, I don't know, that would be great. Like so then by virtue of the fact that you have a Bored Ape, that land in the metaverse is now valuable. So I think this could also be extended to perhaps real property, like real estate. Like I don't know, would we possibly ever have a world where if you own property in the real world, you can also claim that actual thing in someone creates that specific city, and you can claim that.
Right.
I don't know how that would work. The NFT would be the bridge to that. That would be when we get to the point where an NFT represents ownership of your home. That's all you need. You don't need like a stack this thick of paperwork to, you know, to go over. Yeah,
That's pretty wild. So we've talked a little bit about ownership. You know, when we think about these larger communities like Bored Ape Yacht Club, somebody shared something this week about how if Bored Ape Yacht Club was to just suddenly say, nah, we don't want to do this anymore, pull the plug, like it would destroy generational wealth. Like that's how much of an impact this one project had, right? I mean, from a small investment of $160, there are people with $1 million asset in their hands 2 years later, not even 2 years. Like that is just like unheard of in any other anything, right?
Anytime in history.
Anytime in history, exactly.
Yeah.
When you were thinking about the DAO, because we're obviously right in the middle of the drop right now, where we have the Dreamer drop coming on Thursday. When you were thinking about the token and its value, what was happening in your mind, and what are you hoping that becomes for future investors?
Yeah. So first thing is, I wanted to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes where the token becomes how you vote. And so we kind of separated that. So we have a separate governance NFT. That's what the Dreamers NFT drop is for. So if you hold that, you can vote. But then we have a separate token, an ERC20 token, if you want to be technical about it, is the NftyD token. And so that token is, we'll be airdropping that to the Dreamer NFT. So each Dreamer gets almost 1,870 of those. And so my thought around that token is that this art ecosystem is so diverse. There are so many components to it, so many entities, and so many roles. We have galleries, we have museums, we have art dealers, we have NGOs, then we have art collectors, we have art investors, we have artists, of course, and then we have collectives of artists, etc. So there's all these groups, etc. How do you create a solution or a DAO that essentially addresses the needs or the desires or the goals of all of these? And the answer is you can't. But what you can do is meet people in one place and align their incentives. And that is the token. So if we all do what we have to ensure that that token grows in value, the entire art ecosystem grows in value. So that's kind of how I approach the token.
And I know we don't have massive amounts of time, but I think there's certainly people here that are curious, that are probably, I see a lot of blue and yellow hearts in the comments, which means we got some DAO members already in the audience. But for those who are perhaps curious, this is a big broad idea, a DAO just in general and how it functions and all the various facets and nuances of it. But in basic layman's terms, what is the overall mission?
Mission is simple. Artists around the world today cannot legitimately, in the eyes of society, claim that they are an artist as a profession. We want to change that. We want to make it so artists can earn a living through just their art. They don't have to do a second job or third job or whatever. Art is their livelihood. That is the broader mission.
And how do we get there? Like fundamentally, how do we get to that point? What are the stepping stones we have to take? Because it's not simple fix, obviously. This is generations of work.
Absolutely. It is not simple. It is a lot of hard work, but Web3 has given us this tantalizing possibility of solving two problems at once, making it possible for artists to have a livelihood through art, and also democratizing art, because art's always been sort of this domain of the wealthy. And what if everyone could appreciate and enjoy art? So I feel like we have this opportunity right now, and we need to grab hold of it and move forward with it. So let's look at how artists are making money in this space right now. Right now, NFT marketplaces are the thing. That's what an artist does. They mint their work, they list it on a marketplace like OpenSea or Foundation or Super Rare, etc. And then they rely on collectors, which is not a very big pool, but they rely on collectors and incoming potentially new collectors to discover their work and collect their work, which is essentially buying their work. And that's how they make big money. But Rachel, the problem is that we've got a deluge of artists who are like, wow, I can do this now. Because previously, think about what, there was no way they could even have their art visible anywhere. Maybe they go on like DeviantArt or something and post it, but no one sees it.
Mm-hmm.
But here you have an opportunity to have your art, first of all, visible to people, discoverable by people, and wow, monetizable. That's huge. So I can see why artists are coming in large numbers and listing their work, etc. But then they are going right up there against reality. And the reality is that there's lots of artists with lots of artworks and not enough collectors buying this art. And so we now have a problem where artists are having to spend a lot of time marketing their work, promoting their work on social media. But artists are not marketers, nor are they social media experts. Mm-hmm. They're artists. They would much rather be creating their art, right? So how do we make it so they can actually make money going past this marketplace era? I guess I would call it the Gen 1 of art NFTs is marketplaces. If you so we have to look at a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that marketplaces are only a subset of how you can monetize NFTs. The larger world is the retail consumer world, where there are thousands and thousands of products being sold to millions of people, making billions of dollars. That is where we find the opportunity, and the way we do it is through royalty-based, like recurring royalty income, licensing income. So the way the DAO is going to approach this is to identify those companies or domains, if you will, like entertainment is a domain where one-of-one art makes sense. We don't want to, it doesn't make sense everywhere, right? It makes sense in a few specific domains. So we want to identify those industries or those businesses and start reaching out to them and figure out how we can create personalized goods for end users, for end consumers, that brings in one-of-one art into their lives, which solves two problems. It makes art accessible to people, and it makes art monetizable for the artist. So that's basically how we do it. We do this at scale, and we can solve this problem.
Yep. And you and I have talked about this before, but there's so many things that are not customizable, that are not currently being customized with art, that can and should be. And the big one for me has always been vehicles. Like the fact that we just have this monochromatic, like very boring subset of colors that we use for vehicles blows my mind. Like you do not see many customized cars unless you're like down at Art Basel and somebody has something, custom painted. But I could totally see certain artwork being, used to give somebody a more personalized form of expression.
Absolutely. Like, they do it for advertising. You can get your car wrapped,
Yeah.
for advertising. So why not with art, just to show who you are? So I'll tell you, like this is probably not here in Silicon Valley. Like there, it seems like every other car is a Tesla. It's just
I was
because
just going to ask you, maybe we need to get onto Elon and get this
yeah,
contract.
yeah, and like you go to a mall or something, like which one's yours, like it's not a problem so much about identifying which one, but the personality of it. You are just feel like, oh man, I'm just like
I'm
same,
just
you know
another Silicon Valley dude driving a Tesla.
yeah, it's so stereotypical, and I know it's like first world, like whatever, what do you call them, uh
Luxury problem.
luxury problem or whatever. It's but there's lots of other vectors, right? Like, I mean, very basic. Your computer, you carry it around, you go places, well, at least now you do, because the pandemic's mostly like dying down. So that should be personalized. You can go to Amazon and get one that looks the same as 1 million of your best friends,
Mhm.
but that's not the same as one-of-one art. Like, I want to be holding my laptop and seeing that and knowing that XYZ artist in, I don't know, Africa or Australia did that, and I know this person, and I feel good about it. That would be cool. Or curtains, drapes. Like
Home furnishings.
They are prints. They could be art. They could be custom art.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know an artist actually in Dallas who very lucky up, well, not lucky, but she was obviously in the right place at the right time to get this deal. But she creates these huge abstract pieces, and somebody came in who works with Neiman Marcus, and they would take just a little kind of square capture of one of her paintings, and it was used for like home furnishings. They created
Wow.
couches from it. They created bedding. It was a whole line. So we don't even realize how much we already interact with original art on a daily basis, but it's generally been licensed and used on thousands of the same product, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas this is, like you say, it's about becoming more personally expressive, and it is going to allow the individual to be like you said, that piece of artwork, that car is definitely mine because I know for a fact nobody else has that piece.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's
we
amazing.
we get the prints at Target, we get the prints at IKEA, etc. Right? We should be able to just walk up to the IKEA store, choose choose the print we want, and then physically pick up that print
Mhm.
maybe 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
The technology exists. The problem, the obstacle is making it profitable for the manufacturer, because the cost is too high. But that's constantly coming down. Like, look at even t-shirts and stuff like that. It used to be super expensive, and now they are way cheaper.
Mhm.
So I think t-shirts and hats are like a given. That's, but fashion, like real fashion
Mhm.
and art, like that's a match made like in heaven. Like, we have to pursue that. And it's great that there are certain projects doing that, like the one that did a drop, the Bay NFTs. That was,
Mhm.
they're working on that. So I see more of that in the background. There's a surfboard. That should be a one-of-one art,
Yep.
so yeah, absolutely.
I'm already thinking of a partnership right now that I think could work for fashion, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, that would be great.
So just, for anybody who's not on the Dreamer list, it will close on Wednesday, the pre-mint list. You want to be on this list. We are going to be minting on Friday. Nope, Thursday, the 25th, the 25th. So that is not the end, though. This is the Dreamer list. This is the drop specifically for artists. The following month, in just a matter of weeks, we're going to be doing a different drop. Now, this is really what artists want to hear about, right? This is action within the DAO. Tell us about that drop, Nick, and what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, for our plan, for our dream, for our vision to be actually become reality in this world we live in, we need one thing, that is capital. Without capital, it's hard to execute on dreams. And so the second drop, which is at the end of September, is when we are having a similar drop to the Dreamers, but it's for benefactors. And the benefactors are art ecosystem players, like I talked about, whether it's galleries or museums, art investors, etc. And in that drop, we intend to raise $5.5 million, and that capital is what is going to be used to make this DAO successful. We will invest that in projects. So let me step back and talk a little bit about why we are doing it that way. So in Silicon Valley, one of the most successful models for scaling up companies and identifying, which are the gems among like a big field, is to use an incubator model. Incubator is basically a model where an organization says, okay, we're going to provide marketing, product development, legal, accounting, all those services for you, and we're going to give you capital. If you have a great startup idea, come and pitch it to us. So people do, in the thousands. And of those, they select a few and they give them money and they say, run with it and we'll help you. A majority of them might fail, but a few of them take off and become very successful. That's what we are doing with NftyDreams DAO. What we are doing is trying to identify those projects that are innovative enough to be able to use NFT art to make money at scale for artists. We are running lots of experiments at the same time. So with that capital, we'll identify. We've already identified a few projects that we are going to focus on. That's the DAO working on it. But in addition, for the artists, whoever has a Dreamer NFT, you can come and pitch an idea. And we have $1.25 million in grant money available to fund your ideas. And maybe you are the artist who has the next idea of how to change the world with art. And we want to fund that. And that's what I'm super excited about, because I know somewhere right now is an artist with an idea in their head that could be the next billion-dollar idea, and we can help them bring it to life.
Is it you? Yes, you watching this right now. Are you the one with the next big idea? Drop it. Yes, it's me, or nah in the comments and let us know. Like so many people have said, like the biggest Web3 company hasn't been built yet, right?
Not at all. No.
The biggest revenue generating organization for artists isn't here yet. Yep. King QB says, yep, might be me. Eddie says, yep, it's me. Yes, it's me. Yes. I love this energy. So yeah, what is that dream that you've always thought this is a way that artists could really be successful for generations to come? And come bring that to the DAO, bring your ideas. This is going to be a place of collaboration. I mean, the DAO really is about collaborating with the community, and we want to hear from you. Nick, any other thoughts on what's going on in the NFT space this week? Any other topics that have come to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel, just like you have just been so focused on getting to the drop here, but I'm also seeing that for me personally, and I think you'll appreciate it because you're also a fan, is I made my entree into Tezos. I finally took the leap. And boy, was I pleasantly surprised. It was awesome. I had a really good experience, and I'm now have added Tezos permanently to my set of protocols that I will collect on. And so I go there regularly now and check things out, and it's pretty amazing. They got a good community and lots of exciting and interesting art. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I have not seen as much interactive or experiential or script-driven art anywhere else other than Tezos. And as a geek, we started that off. I'm like excited by that. I actually went and looked at the code, etc., of some of these projects, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty neat. And so I've already collected over 200 artworks there, and this weekend I'll go on another buying spree there, and maybe we might even double that. We'll see.
That's amazing.
But to me, it's not about sort of the protocol so much. I'm looking at the experience and the community, and it checks both those boxes. I do see some ways in which the wallet experience could be improved there, but that's across the board. We have the same problems everywhere. The wallets, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, that for me that was a big event this past week, and I'm just super
That's really
excited
cool.
about that.
I actually haven't set up my Tezos wallet yet, believe it or not. But I get so much flack for that because I just haven't had the time to do it. That's the only reason. But I am seeing a lot of amazing artwork that folks are sharing in the Tezos community. So I am going to do it this weekend. It's on my to-do list, and then I'm going to go do a little shopping myself because there's some artists that have put out different collections, artists that I love that are already on Tezos. So it's very exciting.
Yeah,
What do you?
I just want to make sure that like when I was tweeting about Tezos, etc., I got a bunch of DMs saying, "Are you leaving Ethereum and Foundation?" All that. I'm like, no. There is a world where you can add to you can aggregate. So I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there on Ethereum. I'm gonna be there on Flow, which is where I do a lot of my NBA Top Shot is all Flow, and I'm in the top like 0.01% or so collectors there.
Wow.
And I don't even know anything about basketball, so there's that.
Wow.
And but yeah, on Tezos, what I want to do there is start identifying sort of what kind of art or artists are there that are unique to Tezos. I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know the answer yet, but I feel like there's a specific kind of artist that goes there, and I want to identify that artist, and I want to get to why and what drives them there. Obviously, I think it's the community. That's
Right.
big.
Right.
It's the low gas cost for sure. But what else about it? So I've actually spent most of my time on Object. I want to try out some of the other marketplaces as well. Does anyone know which other marketplace I should try out besides Object? I would love
Yeah,
to.
let us know. I'm getting yelled at in the comments for not having a Tezos wallet. Tell us why Tezos? Like, what is it about Tezos that you like? And what do you think is unique about the artwork as opposed to the other chains? And Nick, it's fine to be chain agnostic, right? We can be in lots of different places. In fact, I feel like there will be more chains and more art communities as we move forward.
Yep, I can walk and chew gum and play on my smartphone at the same time. So yeah, it's.
This is interesting. The people are amazing and help you to move forward. So maybe like early Ethereum days, maybe.
I think so. The vibe I get is a real helpful vibe, but also a real sort of belonging and standing for something. I think Ethereum is too large at this point for people to have that feeling of I'm in a special community and all that. So yeah.
And Calamin is apparently another buying site, and Tia, I think.
Tia,
I'm
all right,
pronouncing
cool.
that correct. And Eddie says the artwork is so beautiful and it's affordable. So we're not going to go too deep into this because we only have about 5 minutes left, but I want to throw this into the audience, and then you and I can touch on it a little bit. AI art, folks. Yes or no? Love it? Hate it? What's your opinion? Tell us in the comments. Nick, what about you? Where do you stand on this? Do you want to have a stance on this yet?
I don't have a stance formed on it yet because there are way broader social and ethical and other issues that need to be solved. But it's there. It's here right now. The thing that I look at is AI art is almost a misnomer because we're talking about the output of an AI that is the art. When I first heard AI art, I'm like, cool, I'll get an artwork and it like responds to something dynamically, etc. But that's not the case yet. So what I'm seeing so far is that there is a lot of AI art out there, but if you pay attention and you go into the details, you can tell what is AI art and what's not. So you can tell. Like obviously a human could create similar art and have that style, but the AI is doing the best it can by approximating what its knowledge is. So I feel like there's nothing inherently wrong with it,
Mhm.
but I do understand from the artist's perspective that, hey, I put 4 weeks of work into this, and you go and talk to this thing, and like 10 minutes later you minting this. Yeah, it's inherently unfair, but yeah, I do not have an answer to it. And but I can tell you this: given a choice of two artworks where I see the effort put into a human, that a human put into it versus an AI, I'm gonna go with the human, just because art is about emotion and not just about what you're seeing. It's what went behind it, and if I can feel what the human put into it, uh yeah, that's important. Like, I collected a picture of Eddie's, who's here, and having heard him speak in a couple of spaces, etc., I felt that connection, which is why I picked up that artwork. I wouldn't have done that just for any artwork of it was a sunflower. I wouldn't have done that of any sunflower. That sunflower had meaning because of stuff Eddie's talked about. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think the connection is important.
It just really reiterates that art is not just a commodity, because I'm thinking about the example of, the human connection versus the robot, right?
Yeah.
Essentially the AI. When we go to a supermarket, we have a choice to go to the human, who is usually slower, right? Processing,
Mhm.
or we can now go to these scan it yourself situations. Most of us favor efficiency in those kind of situations to, go into the human. But with this, it's such a more fundamental human experience because we connect with the person behind the art. So I think it's going to be a reckoning that individuals have. Of course, there are some people that will just buy because something is beautiful, but there is this yearning when we buy original art to have that human relatability, that beauty, that poetry, that wisdom, that whatever it is. So
Yeah,
yeah, your feedback is great in the comments here, folks. We love this. We're already using AI, for instance, Photoshop, Auto Tools, basically AI.
that's true.
True.
Very true. Yeah, but that's in the production process with assistance from the human, where it's still more human than Photoshop, than AI. But yeah, I can see that definitely.
Somebody just said this example hurts. The going to the human at the supermarket versus, yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I go to the human because I want to have a human experience. Here's an interesting DAO question here. I have a 10K collection. Let's say I want to share this with a clothing company and use on clothes. How will the DAO help me with this? Will I have to report this to the DAO or wait for a quote? Ooh, very specific question here.
Yeah. So that is a process that we are going to work through. We first have to identify that clothing company, right? We first have to identify what their manufacturing process is, how all of that works, before we can get to it. So our goal, first and foremost, is to enable lots of different artists. And if we are using one collection of 10K NFTs, we're enabling one artist, which is probably not the initial go-to market strategy we'll employ. What we'll do is curate a collection of artwork from many artists and go to the clothing company with that. So that's our first thing. Not that we wouldn't do this, it's just something that'll come a little later. But I'll tell you what, if someone has an interesting approach to this is exactly why we have the grants thing. We have a project, we fund that project and make it happen. So the answer is, I don't know, but we are willing to explore it.
Great answer. All right, so I hope this has brought you some good information to take into the weekend, folks. We didn't go too technical today, Nick. We didn't do that deep dive this week.
We don't have to every time, like we can keep it high level. Yeah.
We'll go light, we'll go heavy. We'll see how the weeks flow.
Yeah.
But let's just wrap it up, letting people know. Well, first of all, if you want to be a part of the DAO, you want to have voting rights, you want to have special access to opportunities, make sure you get on that allow list, folks. It is going to close on Wednesday. So you want to make sure you're on there so you can be eligible for the drop on Thursday, the 25th. We also have a metaverse party coming up on the 25th. It's going to be happening in Spatial. More information about that coming on Monday, so you can stick that on your calendar. There will be there'll be 100 pieces of artwork actually exhibited, because Nick, do you want to just give your contest a little shout out?
Yeah. So today I announced a new challenge for artists because, well, artists want a challenge. It's called A New Hope. It's available to everybody. Any kind of art style you have, whether you're a photographer, 2D, 3D artist, a video artist, whatever, you can participate. And there are 50 prizes. Of those, the grand prize is that one. I'll be doing a 30-minute session with you, just like this that we are doing with Rachel and I are doing right now. We'll also feature your art on NftyDreams.com, and also in the drop party your art will be featured there. So please enter that. You can go look at my Twitter and find a New Hope challenge information.
Amazing. And if you're not doing so already, make sure you're following Nifty Dreams on YouTube, brand new YouTube account, on Instagram, on Twitter. We have more accounts coming very soon. We'll let you know about them next week. And retweet. If you know any artists that would benefit from being in this DAO, retweet out that pre-mint list and tag a couple of people. The more collective community we have inside the DAO, the better future we can build. So, Nick, close it out with your tagline.
Dream on and dream big.
Awesome. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday. Bye-bye.